Welcome, intrepid explorers of the mind, to a journey into one of the deepest and most enduring mysteries of human existence, the nature of consciousness. What is this ineffable essence that allows us to experience the world, to think, to feel, to know that we exist? How does the brain, a 3-pound lump of gray matter, give rise to the rich inner universe of the mind? And could machines ever achieve the same kind of self-aware intelligence that we humans take for granted? These are the questions that have puzzled philosophers, scientists, and thinkers of all stripes for centuries. But thanks to remarkable advances in fields like neuroscience, psychology, and artificial intelligence, we are now starting to piece together the puzzle of consciousness in ways that would have been unimaginable just a few decades ago. At the heart of this quest is a fundamental question: what exactly is consciousness? It's a term we use all the time, but pinning down a precise definition has proven elusive. In everyday language, consciousness is often equated with being awake and responsive to the world around us. If someone is knocked unconscious, we say they have lost consciousness. But there's clearly more to it than that. Most philosophers and scientists today think of consciousness as having two key components: awareness and experience. Awareness refers to our ability to perceive and process information from the world around us, to pay attention, to remember, to think and reason. Experience, on the other hand, refers to the subjective, qualitative aspects of consciousness, what it feels like to see the color red, to smell a rose, to be happy or sad or afraid. It's this experiential aspect of consciousness that has proven the most challenging to explain in scientific terms. After all, you can study the physical processes of the brain all you want, but how do you get from electrical impulses and chemical reactions to the felt experience of being a conscious being? This is what the philosopher David Chalmers has famously called the hard problem of consciousness. Easy problems, in Chalmers' formulation, are those that can be solved by standard scientific methods, things like understanding how the brain processes visual information, or how memory works. The hard problem is understanding how and why all of that processing gives rise to subjective experience, the feeling of what it's like to be you. Over the years, scientists and philosophers have proposed a number of theories to try to crack this hard problem. One influential idea is known as the global workspace theory, developed by the psychologist Bernard Bars. According to this view, consciousness arises when information from various sensory and cognitive processes is integrated into a single, unified workspace in the brain, which can then broadcast that information to other parts of the brain for further processing. Another prominent theory is the integrated information theory proposed by the neuroscientist Giulio Tononi. This theory holds that consciousness is a fundamental property of any system that integrates information in a certain way, and that the amount of integrated information in a system corresponds to the level or richness of its conscious experience. But while these theories offer intriguing frameworks for thinking about consciousness, they remain largely speculative and difficult to test empirically. To really get a handle on the hard problem, we need to be able to study consciousness in action, to probe the brain as it's generating conscious experiences. That's where the burgeoning field of consciousness science comes in. Using sophisticated tools like fMRI scanners, EEG machines, and intracranial electrodes, researchers are now able to eavesdrop on the brain in real time, watching as it lights up with activity during different conscious states. One fascinating line of research has focused on what happens in the brain when people lose and regain consciousness, such as during sleep, anesthesia, or coma. By comparing brain activity patterns during these transitions, scientists have begun to identify specific neural signatures that seem to be associated with the presence or absence of conscious experience. For example, a team of researchers at the University of Michigan recently used EEG to study the brain activity of patients undergoing anesthesia. They found that as the patients lost consciousness, there was a dramatic breakup of the normal patterns of synchronized activity across different regions of the brain. As the patients regained consciousness, those synchronous patterns re-emerged, suggesting that this kind of global coordination may be a key ingredient of conscious experience. Other researchers have used brain imaging to study the neural correlates of specific conscious experiences, from the perception of faces and objects to the felt sense of agency and free will. By identifying the brain circuits and patterns of activity that underlie these experiences, scientists hope to build up a more complete picture of how the brain generates the mind. But even as we make progress in understanding the neuroscience of consciousness, there's another question looming on the horizon. Could machines ever achieve genuine consciousness? As artificial intelligence systems become increasingly sophisticated, able to perform complex tasks, and even mimic human behavior, it's natural to wonder if they could someday cross the threshold into self-awareness. This is a question that has long fascinated science fiction writers and futurists, from Isaac Asimov's robots to the sentient machines of the Matrix. But it's also a question that is becoming increasingly relevant as AI technology advances at a breakneck pace. Already, we have AI systems that can recognize faces, translate languages, and beat humans at complex games like Go and poker. We have chatbots that can carry on remarkably lifelike conversations and even generate original works of art and music. But are these systems truly conscious? Do they have any inner experience, any sense of self? Most experts believe that current AI systems, for all their impressive capabilities, are still far from achieving genuine consciousness. They may be able to process information and make decisions in ways that resemble human intelligence, but they lack the kind of integrated, subjective experience that seems to be at the core of consciousness. But that doesn't mean that machine consciousness is impossible in principle. Some philosophers and computer scientists have argued that consciousness is essentially a computational process, and that any system that performs the right kind of computations could potentially be conscious, whether it's made of biological neurons or silicon chips. One prominent proponent of this view is the philosopher Daniel Dennett, who has argued that consciousness is not some magical, ineffable essence, but rather a set of functional capabilities that arise from the complex information processing of the brain. In Dennett's view, if we could build an artificial system that replicated those functional capabilities, it would be conscious in the same way that we are. Other thinkers, however, are more skeptical about the prospect of machine consciousness. They argue that there's something special and irreducible about the biological basis of human consciousness, and that no matter how sophisticated our AI systems become, they will never truly capture the felt experience of being alive. The philosopher John Searle, for example, has famously argued that no computer program, no matter how intelligent or complex, could ever be genuinely conscious. In Searle's view, consciousness is a biological phenomenon rooted in the specific physical properties of the brain. Just as a simulation of digestion isn't really digestion, he argues a simulation of consciousness isn't really consciousness. But even if we're skeptical about the possibility of machine consciousness, there's no denying that AI is forcing us to grapple with deep questions about the nature of intelligence, awareness, and subjective experience. As these systems become more sophisticated and lifelike, they're blurring the lines between mind and machine in ways that were once the stuff of science fiction. And as we continue to probe the mysteries of human consciousness, we may find that the key insights and breakthroughs come not just from studying the brain, but from trying to build conscious machines ourselves. By reverse engineering the mind, by trying to replicate its astonishing capabilities in artificial form, we may ultimately come to a deeper understanding of what makes us who we are. Of course, this is a journey that will require immense patience, ingenuity, and ethical reflection. As we unlock the secrets of consciousness and intelligence, we'll be confronted with profound questions about the nature of identity, free will, and what it means to be human. We'll need to grapple with the implications of creating beings that may rival or even surpass us in intellect and self-awareness, and ensure that the pursuit of knowledge is always tempered by wisdom and compassion. But despite the challenges and uncertainties that lie ahead, the quest to understand consciousness remains one of the great scientific and philosophical adventures of our time. It's a journey that will take us to the very heart of what it means to be alive, to the deepest recesses of the mind, and the farthest reaches of human possibility. And as we embark on this journey together, let us do so with a sense of wonder, humility, and an unwavering commitment to the truth. For in the end, the story of consciousness is the story of us, of who we are, why we're here, and what incredible heights we might yet ascend to as we unravel the mysteries of the mind.